morning, everybody. I'm really glad to share the children's time with you today. Did you notice something different about me? I borrowed some really big ears to wear because today's story is about listening. And I thought, well, maybe if I have really big ears, I'll be able to listen better. But actually, it turns out you don't need great big ears to listen. Regular people ears work just fine. So we'll learn that in our story today. Our story is about a boy named Samuel. And I love this story because it's about a child, which is really neat. You know, a lot of Bible stories about grown-ups. Most of our Bible stories are about grown-ups. And this one is about a boy named Samuel. He's 12 years old when this story happens. And he lived in Bible times, and he lived in the temple with a man named Eli. So Eli was a priest, and he taught Samuel about God, and he did a lot of work around the temple. And he took care of Samuel. Well, Samuel also kind of took care of Eli too, because Eli was almost blind, and he couldn't see very well. And so sometimes he needed help with things, and Samuel was there to help him. So that was really great. They took care of each other. Well, one night, it was nighttime, and Samuel and Eli were both sleeping. And Samuel was sleeping soundly in his bed, and he heard a voice say, "Samuel, Samuel." And he woke up, and he thought it was Eli. And so he ran to Eli's room. He thought maybe Eli needed some help. And so he said, "Here I am. You called me. I'm here." And Eli said, "I didn't call you. Go back to bed." So Samuel said, "Okay." And he went back to bed. He went back to sleep. And then he woke up again, hearing a voice that said, "Samuel, Samuel." Well, Samuel woke up. He went into Eli's room, said, "You called me. Here I am." And Eli said, "I didn't call you. Go back to bed." So Samuel went back to bed, and he went back to sleep, and he heard his name again. So he went running to Eli and said, "Here I am. You called me." Well, remember, Eli was a very wise man. He was a priest, and he knew a lot about God, and he was teaching Samuel about things. Well, Eli thought, "I think that it's God's voice calling Samuel's name." So he was a good teacher, and he taught Samuel, "Listen, this is God calling you. So if you hear the voice again, say, 'God, here I am. I'm listening. I will do whatever you want me to do.'" And Samuel, he didn't have great big bunny ears. He had just regular people ears, but he listened really carefully, and he said, "Okay, Eli, I'll do that." So Samuel went back to bed, and lo and behold, he heard that voice again, "Samuel, Samuel." And Samuel woke up, and he thought about what he learned from Eli, and he listened with his ears, and he listened with his heart, and he said, "God, it's me. I'm listening. Tell me what you want me to do." Well, God kept speaking to Samuel, and he told Samuel so many wonderful things. And even as Samuel grew up, God kept speaking to him, and Samuel kept listening to God. And Samuel shared God's messages with the other people around him. And so he was a wonderful helper for God. And he was called a prophet because he shared God's messages with the people. And it all started when he was a boy, just like you, a child, a young person, and he listened, and he was a really big, important part of God's story that we still know today. So I think that's pretty exciting. So let's have a quick prayer. Okay. Say, "God, our ears are ready to hear you when you call us. And our hearts are ready to listen for what you want us to do. Help us to be your helpers in the world." Amen. Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week.